Welcome to the Dental Marketing Guy Show. I'm Justin, the Dental Marketing Guy, and today it is a huge honor to interview Laura Hatch, who is the founder and CEO of Front Office Rocks. You may have heard of this, frontofficerocks.com, the leader in web-based front office training for dental practices. Front Office Rocks was founded when Laura recognized the desire to share her success with her fellow dental practices. Laura earned her master's in organizational development, that's interesting, from John Hopkins University, and has worked with her husband, Dr. Anthony Hatch, to start and grow two extremely successful dental practices, one outside of Baltimore and their current office in San Diego, California. That's pretty close to me. That's good.
Yeah, right? California, West Coast.
Yeah. It looks like these have been really, really successful. And, you know, some of the training that you offer, I'm sure you've been able to, I always love to talk to people that have worked in dental offices, and whether they're dentists or they're front desks or they're hygienists, because they actually know what's going on. They're actually in the trenches. So I really love hearing from people that have started dental practices and run them successfully. You've authored articles for leading dental magazines, web-based dental communities. I know I've seen you on Dental Town and the forums. Mm-hmm. Laura is a fellow of the American Association of Dental Office Managers, a national and international speaker for a leading authority on dental practice management, as well as state and local dental societies, study clubs, and she's an advisor to several companies in the dental community. So, wow, this is quite the introduction. I'm just going to let you take the floor, Laura. How are you?
Well, good. Nice to talk with you. Thanks for having me on today. I appreciate it. I actually love everything that you do. You and I kind of started in the same area. The reason I started Front Office Rocks was because I think that so many dentists don't think marketing works. And I fully believe marketing works. I've had two, fee-for-service offices. We average between 50 and 85 new patients a month, but I think you're not going to get great return on investment if your staff's not handling the phones well. So I love what you do, and then I kind of balance that out on the front end, because once you've gotten a postcard out or somebody's seen some of your marketing, the next thing to do is going to call your office, and the people answering your phones need to be well trained at handling that. So I'm glad we're talking about this subject and the training that I offer.
So if they want mediocre front desk training, they shouldn't contact you. But if they want their front desk to rock,
yes.
Tell me a little bit about what you do to help the front office rock.
Yep. So like you said, my husband's a dentist. So I kind of got thrown into office manager by default because my husband said, hey, why don't you run the back or the front and I'll be in the back. So when I got into dentistry in 2002, just like now, there's not a lot of schools that you can go to learn how to be a front office manager. There's not a lot of resources out there for us. So I had to figure it out on my own. And I know that a lot of dentists aren't trained on the front office part of things. So I started Front Office Rocks with the hope to help the, new employees, the ones coming into a dental office going, okay, how do I do this? How do I fill a schedule? How do I handle the phone calls? How do I do my daily job? Dental offices aren't like anything else. They're customer service and we're in a service industry, but we really got to learn the dental part of it. So my goal is to help dentists and teams get their how-tos down in the front office. Everything from that very first phone call to asking them for a referral and ask them to go online and do a review. Everything along the way is really what I focus on with Front Office Rocks.
And maybe we could give the viewers maybe 2 or 3 quick tips as far as, just the short and punchy version. If there's anything that our viewers can do to take action based on your training, what would 2 or 3 tips be for, I'm a dentist, I'm watching the Dental Marketing Guy show, and man, it sounds great. Sounds like you help dentists out.
Yeah.
But what do I do? What should I do? What's the first step?
All right. Well, the first thing I would suggest is to make sure, especially if you're spending money on marketing, to make sure that the people answering your phone are trained. So many times in the dental office, the place we try out the new employee is answering the phones. And if that new employee doesn't know how to handle that phone call, if they don't know about insurance, and if you're in and out of network, and how to handle a shopper phone call or whatever, that's going to be a waste of your marketing money. So the last thing I would do is put a brand new employee on the phones until they're trained and proven before you're going to let them answer your phones, because that's just going to be a waste of money that you're spending in regards to answering, to the marketing that you're doing. And then my second thing would be making sure that your team, and this is what I train on, this is kind of how the start of Front Office Rock started, is they know how to handle the questions when patients call in, because they're going to get the marketing from your website or from your office, and they're still going to call, no matter what the marketing says, they're still going to call your office and typically ask, do you take my insurance? Do you have weekend hours? How much is a crown? Like, these are the typical questions. And if your employees answer that question at all with a no, like, no, we're not in network for your insurance, or no, we're not open on weekends, all that patient's going to want to do, or prospective new patient, is hang up. They're just going to be like, okay, well, because they think they need to call somebody who's in network or that has weekend hours. So the number one tip that I teach anybody on the phones is to try not to ever answer their questions with something negative, because once you've answered it with something negative, like, no, we don't have weekend hours, that person's just trying to get off the phone. What we need to do is we need to answer it with a positive response and then take control of the phone call. So yes, we work with your insurance. Yes, in certain circumstances, we're open on the weekends. Let me ask you a few questions, because if we don't take control of that phone call to find out who's calling, why are they calling, what intrigued them about the marketing that they got about our office, what have they heard about us, what can we help them with, we're never going to get to know the person on the other end of the phone. So it's my recommendation that every question anybody calls in, we're going to answer it with something positive so that we can start to find out about the person on the other end of the phone, instead of just talking to them about their insurance. Because yes, we have to deal with insurance, but at the end of the day, that's not what we're here for. We're here to really care about our patients. So for me, training the front office team, making sure they're very well versed in how to handle new patient calls, is so important for every dentist and, around the world, let alone, just the United States.
It drives me crazy. I do SEO for dentists, and, it doesn't matter what kind of marketing you're doing. The prospective patients are going to call when they're going to call.
Right.
And it drives me crazy that you've got some dental offices spending $5-10 grand a month on marketing, and those could be 90% emergency cases.
Yeah.
But they don't see emergency cases if they're not a patient of record. It just seems like there should be some system in place where, instead of pissing away $5 grand a month for marketing and then, saying no to
right
40 grand a month, 50 grand a month in production, what if you actually found a way to deal with that?
Right.
So do you go into that sort of thing? Is there?
Yeah, completely. Yeah. One of my, I hear a lot of doctors tell me that, new patients don't show up for appointments, or they have a lot of cancellations or no-shows. Well, one of the things behind it is we need to get the patient to come in when they're motivated. So we need to get them in as soon as possible. You should be seeing emergencies. You should be seeing new patients. My policy is in the next 1 to 3 days. Get them in. Like, for example, I had a patient that called in, and he's been getting postcards to his house from my dental office for 4 years. And he's finally calling into my office now to make an appointment. He's gotten 25, 30 postcards from my office, and he's motivated now to pick up the phone. I need to get him in right away. We're not going to be able to diagnose a patient over the phone. We got to get them in. So you got to make your doors open and available and get patients in if you want to see your new patient, your new patient numbers increase. So I'm all about that. One of the things I teach is in the huddle in the morning. Everybody should be having a huddle to talk about, well, where do we stick new patients, and what's a real emergency, and when do we fit them in, so that the team can work together to bring in new patients to make the marketing work, because you're going to get your best return on investment if you're actually keeping your doors open and making it easy to become a new patient in your practice.
Yeah, both Howard Ferran and Fred Joyle, the founder of 1-800-Dentists, were on this show, and one of the things that they always talk about is 8% of emergency room visits are dental related. So emergency rooms, meaning not dental offices, but hospitals. And imagine the cost to society, especially because a lot of these people presumably can't pay, or the government's footing the bill, or the hospital's footing the bill. This is a cost being passed on to everyone. What if dental offices actually did emergency care? instead of emergency rooms? What if people actually knew that their dentist was willing to do that? But I don't know if that's outside your wheelhouse or something you actually ran about too.
Well, I think for me, I mean, because we see emergencies, we see new patients, we're all about that. I think the biggest thing for me is having the right people answering the phones, having them trained well, and having them think about, I don't know, calling into different medical offices and that mean lady who answers the phone, or she's really short, that's the first impression people have of our dental offices. So we want to make sure that we're friendly, we're handling the call well, we're getting them in as soon as possible, that we have the right attitude, because anything that you're doing, SEO or otherwise, you've paid to get that phone call. I like to say, my husband argues with me because he would say it's CEREC, but I say the biggest piece of technology in our entire dental office, the most important one, is the phones, because the phones they're our connections to the outside. They're our lifeline. And if we don't have phones and we're not handling them well, we're not going to have a lot of patients to work on. So I just think that's missed so much with handling calls and handling new patients and emergencies or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, absolutely. So could you tell us a few things that maybe dentists can, how does your process work? Tell me how it works.
Yeah. So the reason I started Front Office Rocks is because I didn't find that there was a resource out there for dental teams. So the doctor says, hey, fill my schedule tomorrow, or lower our number of cancellations, or whatever, get your collection, collect the money we need. And then they go in the office and they cross their fingers and hope that the front office teams knows what to do. So what I've designed is a resource for dental offices that's a one price to train as many people as you want, and it's priced so that any dentist, new, big, small, can afford it. And they're short video-based training. So basically there's over 180 videos, and I add new videos every month because I'm in the dental office, so I see things going on all the time. And the videos are anywhere from 5 to 12, 13 minutes long. So they're easy to watch. You can take a break during the day, watch a video. There's quizzes at the end to make sure that the employees are getting it and that the doctors can see that the quizzes are being taken. And the idea is to give the front office team the training they need when they need it on the subjects that they need, without having to send them to some CE in another state and have them be out of work. It's there for significant training that's going to help every employee, whether they're new or maybe they can, use a little enhancement on handling an issue or two. So the concept is just really to give the staff the resources they need to be better in their own jobs, which in turn is going to help the office, the doctor in the office, grow.
Excellent. So you've got a program, and can I ask you, how much is it?
Yep, it's $149 a month, and it's month to month. I mean, it's, you just cancel, so there's no long-term contracts. And like I said, it's priced so anybody can really afford it. I mean, it's $149 a month. In fact, I had an office, a doctor told me they signed up. Within the first 2 days, their front office receptionist had answered, watched a couple of the videos. She answered the next phone call, and that phone call was somebody who asked how much their crown was. She typically would have given the crown fee out over the phone, but because she watched the videos, she didn't give the fee out over the phone. She converted the person to a consult, and they ended up closing that patient on a crown. So it paid for itself for the whole year. So the idea is so that you can train. I mean, I have some offices that have 25, 30, 40 employees and some that have one. And it's all one price, easy to use, easy in the office. Some offices use it as team training in their huddles. Some use it one-on-one training. It's adaptable to any office, really, and looking to help them, grow and fix their front office.
That's excellent. I really like that. So, there's a lot of companies out there that are talking about front desk training. You got a couple big names, and then I know there's a lot of smaller people. What would you say? I mean, the $149 a month. I mean, that's an incredible price point. And do you update those? Do they?
Yeah. Well, I update the videos and I add new documents. So basically, I have hundreds of clients across the country, and I felt I could help more offices doing it this way than try to go in office to do training or consulting. So what happens is the clients reach out to me. They might have a question about how do you handle this? How do you handle that? I'll address it. I'll add it to the website for the rest of the clients. I'll do a video about it. If I don't have a video in there, I'll write a document. Like I just wrote a document on how to get out of network, the different steps that you should consider. So my concept behind Front Office Rocks is to be a resource for dental teams across the country, at, like I said, at a price that they can afford, where they can use the knowledge I have to be able to help them implement, different things they want to work on in the office.
That's really cool. I mean, this is different from many things that I've heard of just by the way that you're describing it, the medium that you're using. I can see how it's scalable. That's why it's inexpensive, because it's not, the knowledge is just as valuable as having a consultant come in, but it's 100 times cheaper. That's really interesting.
Well, one of the things that I think sets Front Office Rocks apart from, I think consultants are great and trainers are great and speakers. I was just talking to a couple speakers today, all amazing. The thing is with me is I'm an office manager. That's what I am. I'm not a consultant. I'm not coming in office. There are needs and necessities for consultants for sure. My focus is on the day-to-day duties, the leave behind for the employees of how do I do this? How do I do that? Because training, as you heard, my master's degree is in organizational development, which basically means change management. And one of the biggest issues that happen in businesses, all different kinds, is that a lot of the issues start from the very first day, the very first week, that the employees aren't trained correctly. They don't know what they're doing. They're just kind of thrown to the wolves. And especially in a dental office, you go in and one employee shows you how to do something and another employee shows you how to do it, but differently. And you kind of just learn as you go. And with Front Office Rocks, it's now structured training for every employee to hear the same message without having to take other employees off their jobs. And it's all done by an office manager. I show real life examples of how to handle a patient that doesn't want to pay, or how to handle an angry patient that comes in, or how to run a huddle. Like, it's all kind of videos that can be absorbed easily and have real life examples in them of what happens every single day in dental offices.
That's excellent. So you're right there in the trenches. You know what's going on. So the reason why it's month to month, I'm guessing, is because you do the updates. And so you've tapped into all these different dental offices. They come to you with questions. You answer them. If it seems like that's kind of a frequently asked question or something really important that they need to know, you update the videos. You update the content. That's
in fact, I just had, and a lot of it is my clients just want to know, like, how do you do it in your office? I've had an office on the East Coast. We've had an office on the West Coast. My husband and I have 8 operatories, a staff of 16. We get 50 to 80 new patients a month. We have 4 doctors. So I have a lot of different scenarios that I can pull from. And I just want to be a resource for as many offices as I can, because I get the same questions over and over again from doctors and dental offices. And I thought, why not have a resource that they can go to be able to get the information they need when they need it?
That's great. And, I love that. One of the things I think our listeners like about these interviews is they're sometimes unscripted, right. just kind of throwing questions at you here. I'm wondering, like, how many, this is kind of an esoteric question, so let me know if I'm even phrasing it right. But like, how many front desk employees do you actually need? In terms of like exact guidelines, like per dollar amount of production, how many per number of patients and stuff like that. Does that question make sense the way I said it? How many front desks per dollar production per patient? Do you have a formula?
And I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know off the top of my head. I know when my husband and I added and what worked and what didn't. And I'm sure like I said, there's much smarter people out there in the dental consulting world that probably have formulas of when to hire, when to not. I will tell you that I find that doctors tend to be somewhat frugal on the front desk and having enough employees. One of the things that I say is there's 2 sides to it. The doctor can be frugal so that the front office person is overwhelmed. They just can't get everything done in the day. Or are the front office teams, are they working as efficiently as they could be? So you have to kind of weigh what's going on in the front office. But for me, if things aren't happening, for example, I was just talking to a doctor last week where they're so busy at the front, they haven't made overdue recare calls in 6 or 8 months. So those are patients that aren't on the schedule, that are just out in the world, and they haven't called them to say, hey, we need to get you back in, you're due for your cleaning. They have a huge outstanding treatment plan list that they haven't called on. They have outstanding claims that are over 90 days old. So all of this is areas that the doctor is losing money because their front office team is overwhelmed, and he's waiting until they get to a certain level before he hires somebody. Well, if we wait until we're so desperate, that's when we just hire whoever, stick them on the front phones and say, start answering the phones. We really want to make sure that we're planning and looking and saying, are we doing everything we should at the front desk? Because if you're not, the practice isn't going to grow, And so I don't know if there's a specific number, and I'm sure I could look it up and find out, but I'm not going to guess at this point. It's more of just kind of going, is everything happening in your front desk? Are you making calls? I mean, patients disappear, get out of the schedule. And if we're not calling to follow up with them to make sure that they know they need to get scheduled, who's reminding them? Who's reaching out to them to say, hey, you need to get back in. So it's things like that I kind of help assess and help train on to make sure that, you're not being short-sighted, because doctors tend to focus on production. What are we producing? We're producing. Well, we also have to look at what are the things that aren't happening or are happening in our front desk to help our practice grow.
Yeah, one of our past guests, Spencer Peller from YesTrack.com, it's a after-hours call answering service. We were talking about how voicemail is basically a thief in your office. Yep. I mean, I had Dave Harris on the show too. We talked about embezzlement, and it's like I'm not sure. I think when it comes to marketing, dentists will invest in marketing, but then when it comes to actually bridging the gap of making sure that marketing converts into dollars, there's a lot of steps there. And I think dentists just want to do dentistry. But this is really important, is to have experts like you come on and say, look, we've got to follow up on these dollars that you're spending. Otherwise, I always tell dentists, I say, just stop investing in marketing. Stop investing if you aren't making money, if you don't have an ROI. And a lot of times, dentists don't know. So it's like, for instance, if you're doing SEO, you might not be able to geometrically track the leads as easily as if you're doing like AdWords, pay-per-click ads, where you can use a tracking number, direct mail, radio, billboards, everything, TV. You can use tracking numbers. You can't do that for SEO. It's the one thing I really don't like about SEO. But you do have a lot of data, and when you can see, oh, there's new patients coming from the website, and it's concurrent. You see there's all this new traffic on the website, but for whatever reason, you're not increasing revenues. Man, it's not the SEO fault. It's not the fact that you're ranked number 1 on Google. You're getting lots of traffic, but you got to follow up on that stuff. So I really like that. That's a good.
And I think you and I may have posted on a similar thing on Dental Town about that, because I feel like you're going to get better ROI on any marketing that you do when you have a well-trained staff, when you're answering your phone 5 days a week, when you're like, it's so frustrating to me when I call into dental offices and I get their voicemail, and the voicemail says, if you've reached us during business hours, we must be helping another patient. For me, I'm like, well, what is that telling this potential new patient that's calling your office? The other person's more important than them, right? When we let it go to voicemail over lunch. Well, for somebody who works a 40-hour-a-week job and they're handling their personal issues, when do they typically handle things like making their dental appointment?
And during lunch and the evenings, yeah.
Yeah, right? And most offices are closed on Fridays, and they don't answer their phone on Fridays. And I'm like, you spent this money to get your phones to ring, and now nobody's answering your phones. Like, it just doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, I think a dental office phone should be answered minimally through Friday. I think it's great if there's an after-hour service like you were talking about, but for sure between 8 and 5, Monday through Friday, it should not go to voicemail, because we're not corporate America. Don't push 1 for billing and 2 for making an appointment. They want to talk to a human, and then people are spending more to come to our office. Insurance isn't paying more. Our fees are going up. People are spending money. They want to see a value in that. And that starts with that very first phone call, when making sure that your phones are answered. So we're definitely preaching to the choir here, you and I.
I hope the listeners take action on it, because I got to tell you, I'm so tired of dentists giving me $1 million a month for SEO. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, right. I need to get in your business.
So here's another question I'm wondering is do you recommend hiring a front desk with dental experience, and if so, how much? Because a lot of dentists, like you said, they're very cost conscious. They might skimp on investing in the front desk. Meanwhile, they'll spend 20 grand on their website. But I digress on that. But the point is the difference between a fixed or removable bridge. These people in banking and waitresses and people that you just pick up on the street, they don't know the difference between this stuff, and you got to teach them. So anyways, bringing it back to my question, do you recommend hiring a front desk with dental experience, and if so, how much?
That's funny that you bring that up, because this is one of my mantras that I talk about. I'm not saying you shouldn't, but you don't have to have somebody with front desk experience. We can teach, like when I started, dental experience. When I started, I didn't know teeth had numbers. I didn't know they had surfaces. I didn't know, I remember seeing the dental codes thinking I needed to know all those ADA codes. Like somebody dental surfaces, you can teach them what a removable and a fixed bridge is, but you can't teach them how to be friendly. You can't, or we don't have time to do that. We don't have time to teach them great customer service. And for example, I had an employee who, she just never smiled. She never smiled, and she could have been the best employee in the world, but I'm like, you need to smile and be nice to people. You need to, we work with our dental family more than with our regular family. Our patients are paying money to be here. And this was just something that I couldn't teach her to do. So for me, I feel that dentists do feel like you have to hire somebody with experience. I feel like dentists feel like you have to have somebody with 2 years EagleSoft experience or 2 years Dentrix experience. And I do believe you don't. I believe with resources like what I've come up with Front Office Rocks, my videos start with, okay, here are dental codes and what they mean. Here are what surfaces of teeth are. Here are procedures. And we can take somebody who understands how to take care of patients, how to get more clients in the door, how to be friendly, how to work hard. We can teach them the dental, versus sometimes we try to hire somebody that has the EagleSoft or the Dentrix experience. But what's happening is, first of all, you're paying more for that employee. And second of all, you're bringing the other dental offices experiences into your office, which isn't always what you want. I would rather take somebody from, banking or a Hostess or Nordstrom's and bring them into the dental office and teach them the dental, because they've got the customer service down. They've got the business part of it down. And that part is more important to me than knowing removable versus, fixed bridge or whatever the case may be.
Excellent. Well, do you feel the back office should discuss financing or costs with patients? And if so, or if not, why?
I don't know, back office versus front office. It kind of just depends on how your office runs. I think it's more important to make sure the right person is talking about finances, meaning I don't want to put anybody in a consultation with one of my patients who may have issues with money. For example, maybe the treatment plan is $5,000 and I've got a young dental assistant who barely makes that in a certain period of time. And so when she's like $5,000, that's a lot of money. I want to make sure whoever's talking about money with our patients fully sees the value in the dentistry that the patient's getting, understands the patient needs to get this dentistry done because it's necessary for their dental health, and has no problem talking about money. So it could be an assistant, it could be a hygienist, it could be a front office employee. For me, that doesn't matter. I do feel that you have to make sure there's good systems in your office, meaning not to talk about the patient about money while they're standing at the front desk with their tennis shoes on, 12 feet away from the front door, because all they're trying to do is get out of your office when we're talking about money. So I would prefer that the conversation happens in a consult room or chair side, somewhere where we can really get into full communication with the patient and handle all their questions and do everything in our power to help them understand what they need and get them to schedule, versus what happens a lot in dental offices right now is the doctor tells the patient what they need. We walk them to the front desk, the patient gets handed that treatment plan, and all they see is the dollar amount on the bottom, and they're like, whoa, wait a minute, I didn't expect this, and they're trying to get out. So for me, it's more important to make sure that you have systems. And I have, 15, 20 videos specifically on the systems in the office and how to talk to patients about money. And, the patient that says, well, I'm only doing what the insurance covers, or can it wait? How do we handle those kind of things? That's more important to me than whether it's a dental assistant or a front office employee.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I had a client who told me that their front desk gets off the phone with someone. Oh yeah, it's going to be 10 grand for whatever procedure. And then they hang up the phone and they go, it's a dental assistant, probably making $12 an hour. And then she gets off the phone and she's like, I would never pay 10 grand for dentistry. That is way too much. And it's like, okay, hold on, doctor. That is not the right attitude. How are you supposed to sell dentistry? Which sales is kind of a dirty word. This is kind of an ongoing theme of this show, is talking about how sales is a four-letter word in the dental world, but and how it shouldn't be. Whether you call it case acceptance or patient experience or what. But I mean, the bottom line is if you have the best clinical skills in the world, you have a responsibility to sell dentistry.
Yeah. Well, think about it. What do we sell, right? We sell dental health. Like, what we sell helps our patients live longer, live a better life. We sell dental health. But in our patients' minds, what do we sell? We sell drills and needles in their mouths. They're going to pay us thousands of dollars for something nobody's going to see, and half the time it didn't hurt before you touched them. Well, if you had your choice, I want to spend $1,000 on a big screen TV or $1,000 on a root canal, what do you think the patients are going to want to pick, right? So we don't sell things that people want, but we have to get over that because they ultimately need it. We are their healthcare provider, and we need to make sure everybody on your team, including the doctor, has that same philosophy and understands the importance of selling. Selling, the other word I use, instead of sell, I use help. I mean, that's what we're doing. We're helping our patients, live longer and live a better life. So, and on that note, I have a quick story. I did, when we first moved to San Diego, I called a bunch of different dental offices, just trying to find out what their fees were in my area and how much they were charging. And I had one that's near my office who I said, how much is your crown? And she told me the price, whatever it was, $1,200 or whatever. And I said, wow, that's expensive. She goes, I know, right? She's like, if you get insurance, it'll definitely help with that. Like, this is somebody answering this doctor's phones who's agreeing with me that $1,200 is expensive for a crown. And I'm sure that doctor probably calls someone like you and says, my marketing doesn't work. I haven't got more new patients. And it's like, that's because the person you have answering the phones has a real issue with money, and she's giving out these fees over the phone. It's not your marketing that's the problem. Your staff's not trained well. So we're definitely on the same page with that.
Imagine if a dentist, it's almost like a joke, if a dentist shoots out a mailer that says, isn't $1,200 for a crown too much? But that's what the staff is telling them.
Yeah, completely. Yeah. And so that's why I get so frustrated when doctors, I had one office that asked me to call into their office to see how their dental assistant was doing answering the phones because they weren't busy enough to keep her busy in the back. So they put her on the phones because they needed help up front. Well, she wasn't trained at all. So when I called in and talked to her, you could tell she was nervous. She didn't know any of the questions or the answers to my question. She didn't know what insurances they took. We hung up and I thought, I could have been a potential new patient. And they were busy enough in the back, so they put her on the phones. That's the worst thing you can do. At least train them before they start answering phones, anybody.
Right. Well, many patients don't want to pay until you actually do the work, especially the elderly sometimes. So I've heard some experts tell me that. Do you believe patients should prepay for treatment before the schedule or just bring in their portion on the day of service?
I think that we should figure out the finances with patients before we put them in the schedule, for sure. If we're at all concerned that the person isn't 100% sold, we should have them pay something, because I would rather find out in the consultation, if somebody's not sold on getting the dentistry done, they're not going to pay you a dime. They're not going to pay you anything. And what we do is we put them in the schedule and we cross our fingers and we go, well, hopefully they'll show up. But why do we do that to ourselves? Like, wouldn't you rather find out when you go to appoint them if they're sold or not? So for me, anybody who you're not 100% sure on, at least have them put a deposit down for the appointment. And if you want to offer prepayment discount, great, I'm all for that. But minimally, don't put them in the schedule and then just hope they're going to show up. Now, if you've got great patients that show up, they pay their bills, they never cancel appointments, they're always there, well, you're not going to want to, change the policy for them. This is more for, people who keep failing and canceling. I hear doctors, one of the number one issues is cancellations and no-shows. Well, this will fix it. Ask a patient to pay, then you're going to find out, are they really on board and are they going to show up? And if I've got 2 patients in the schedule and this one's paid and this one hasn't paid a dime, I'm going to bet that this one's going to show up without any problem, because we all get those phone calls in the morning where it's, I'm sick, right? Well, you're like, no, I just saw you at Target last night. You're not sick. But basically they're waking up going, I have a root canal scheduled today and I really don't want to do that. And I have to pay $500, you know? So it's just better to handle it up front if you're at all concerned about that person, you know, coming to the appointment.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, we're coming to a close on our time, but man, this has been some amazing value. I really appreciate you answering some of these unscripted questions. It sounds like you really know what you're talking about. Where can they find you?
It's just frontofficerocks.com. I have their videos are all broken into categories: receptionist, scheduler, treatment coordinator, office manager. There's free videos on the top where you can watch a couple sample videos to get an idea of what the training's about. There's an Ask Laura on there. You can reach out to me and you can sign up for the monthly, or you can sign up for annual and you get a discount if you do that. And if they mention that they heard this podcast, I'll give them $50 off the first month. So all they have to do is mention that they listened to us and learned some stuff and wanted to give it a shot, and we'll make sure that they get a discount, because I want to definitely try to help as many of your listeners as we can.
Excellent. What kind of discount are we talking? I love this. This is
$50 off that first month. So it's not even $149 now. Now it's what, $79 or $99. So this gives them the opportunity to get in there and try it out. And at any point, it's, you know, just when you're done training, you can cancel. There's no long-term contracts, because I really believe in the training, that it's something that you use every month and it grows with your practice. So.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, that's great. Well, thank you very much, Laura, for appearing. And man, I hope if anyone has any questions, feel free to reach out. Let me know if you have questions for Laura. You've got her information. Do you have an email they can reach out to?
Yep. It's just Laura, LAURA, at frontofficerocks.com. And you can go to the website. There's also an Ask Laura on there, and that comes directly to me. So if you've got any questions about the training, the website, my philosophies, anything, feel free to reach out to me. I'm here to help as many offices as I can.
Cool. Well, hey, you know what? Like I'm always saying, you got to answer that phone. You got to answer it with courtesy. You got to know what you're talking about. You got to be able to field these objections about insurance and whatnot. Well, here's someone who might be able to help you with that. So for all you doctors who are, you know, hitting up the dental marketing guy for SEO and web design and whatnot, let me tell you, this is the kind of thing that you need to really take the marketing investment that you've made and turn it into a growing practice, a practice where you get the patients that you want most. Thank you, Laura, and thank you to all of you watching the Dental Marketing Guy Show.